Once a month, I host a free coaching call via Zoom to my community. If you would like to join in next time, please see the link in the show notes to sign up so that you're on my email list and you get alerts to the next one. It's 30 minutes of free coaching and then 30 minutes of live Q&A. You can come ask me any questions that you have that you think that I may be able to help you out with. On this episode of Keep Rising with Kristy Kuhl, I am sharing February's episode. Enjoy. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you. Keep rising. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Some of you are here because you attended my Success Unleashed Summit, and I think others saw the post online. I put it in my stories because I think that whether you attended Success Unleashed or it's just February, you may be feeling the same way, like, gosh, what do I do with all this information? Or what do I do with my goals right now? It's the second month in, and this is really the month where a lot of things I find from years and years and years of doing this can be a very pivotal month where people start to question themselves and get a little bit confused and lose steam, lose the momentum that we started in January. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to spend 2 minutes here letting you know who it is that I am and why I feel like I have some things today to share with you that could be helpful to just your overall life and business. I'm a high performance coach. I spent 15 years leading sales teams, disruptive sales teams in a very male dominated cutthroat environment for 15 years and happened to fall underneath some of the best leadership in the world, in my opinion, that they developed me significantly. They saw something in me, and I believe that all it takes is one person to see something in you. And there was a leader that saw something in me that I really denied from a young age. So I was a very sensitive person, incredibly sensitive, still am to this day. I get my feelings hurt probably easier than most people do. And there were times in my childhood that because the antennas were so tuned in and I would just shut down trying to figure out kind of what's happening or what I'm feeling, it all got lumped into that, like, oh, she's sensitive, oh, she's pouting. And there were a number of times that I was pouting, but there was also a number of times that I was just like, whoa, what's going on? And it took me a long time to really hone that. And thankfully, gratefully, these leaders at a company called Intuitive saw this in me, and they handed me a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. And it's the power of thinking without thinking. And it's just that quick, gut instinct, intuition, whatever you want to call it. They helped me realize that that was my greatest gift. And that was a lot of what I was feeling, because a lot of those environments when I was a child that I didn't quite know what was happening. If you fast forward a few years, there was a lot of really dark, bad energy around those people. And some things happened later in childhood where all that came out. I was never wrong, but I just didn't know what it was that I was feeling or seeing. And so I'm very fortunate to have this career because not only did it allow me to settle in more to who I am, it also gave me a lot of skills and training with people and with sales and influence. I left all of that. I had what I like to say is a platinum handcuffs. And I think oftentimes we go through life and we go, oh, well, it's okay. It's good enough, right? Like, gosh, there's only like 10% that feels off, but that 10% for me was just sucking the absolute life out of me. And nobody around me really understood it. I didn't even understand it. I just felt like I was not in the right place. And even though I was making a ton of money and was up for every single promotion, I just felt off and I felt friction inside and I felt restless. And I put a lot of the effort into getting better, which served me well. But the part that was missing was I was just out of sync. I was out of alignment. I was outside of my core values. And look at the cars and the bank account and the freedom and all these things. I think that this is where a lot of people are. I took the leap of faith in myself. I believe that it really comes down to one moment of courage, and I purposely design environments like where I'm at right now, Aspire, where I hear something or feel something or see something, and it's like, gosh darn it, and I know that about myself, and I leverage it, and I usually will take massive action. Because that courage fades, it wanes. And before long, you're back to yourself and you're back to your limiting beliefs. And that's why I wanted to have this call too, after the Success Unleashed Summit, to go, okay, well, what did we do with it? Did we do anything with it? And what do we do right now? Same thing, if you didn't attend it. start of the year, it's okay. It's the same thing. Like you set big goals in January, but now what, right? Like now you're out of the vision board event or you're out of that momentum and now you're left with you. And wherever you go, you take you with you. And I think that the closer we can get to truth and where you go, then you can do what I do and you can design environments where you know that you need that moment of courage or you can leverage your physiology, or maybe it's somebody around you close to you that just has the permission to call BS. I left all of that when I realized Tony Robbins had talked about fulfillment. And I realized that I didn't have any fulfillment in my life. And I knew that that was the 10% of friction that I really don't know how to this day. I don't have an autoimmune disorder. It was just, I felt that conflicted all the time. But by the grace of God, and I think that I don't, because now I have the power to help other people and I'm not sick. And so I've been in this space for 6 years. I slid in immediately to helping executives and entrepreneurs just by flying in the front of the plane and being curious and having conversations. Before you know it, I replaced my income. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where somebody had called me lazy, and I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I'm like, "I'm one of the hardest workers I know," but I knew exactly what he was talking about because that was kind of lazy. There was other things in me that I was not developing because, quite honestly, I was afraid of building a life again that I didn't want to show up for. And the reality of it is, if that happens, we just course correct. And especially in the coaching space, we just course correct. We just course correct. And so I although I felt like I was working my tail off, I kind of slid in and was hiding. And it was like one opportunity would lead me to another. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I was like, all right, you're either going to do something with this and help and serve the masses or not. Alongside of all of this, I really believe in relationships, and I've opened the door in Nashville. So I do high performance coaching for artists in Nashville and labels the company. So oftentimes it's the label that will bring me in. The artist will hire me. Also within the service-based business, I just find that if you can stay true to your core values, life is just so much easier and effortless. And for me, with respect to the service-based business, Nashville and I are like this. Like you just don't survive if, and all I have to do is show up and be my best and be myself. And then lastly here, this year, I've launched a women's group coaching program called Unleash for any woman that is ready to step into their full potential. So it's easy to see the movie in reverse. And I tell the story very beautifully, but it was not, it was awful because I was by myself and there was so much self-doubt. And it was like, I paid so much money to figure out the exercises that got me to this point where I am now with more confidence, as well as how did I figure out what works for me. And I'm really, really passionate to get the message out to the masses because I believe that most people are living out of alignment somewhere. And that's the friction that's holding you back from really stepping into your dreams, just like me. My favorite quote is, "If it's meant to be, it is up to me." That's Jim Rohn. And I believe that my life completely changed when I took full ownership of every single situation. And of course, some things are outside of your control, but it's like, what can I learn from this? And what part did I play in this? And if it is meant to be, I've got to figure it out. I got to get better in some way. I believe that at any given time, I can be somebody's moment. And so Devin Klein, the owner of Burn Boot Camp, I was having a conversation, building a relationship as I do with him. And he's like, "You're a fire starter, Kristy." And I was like, "What? What's that mean?" And he's like, "You're a momentum builder. You're a fire starter." And I was like, "Wow, I really like those words. I'm going to take that." And he's like, "I think that you're like me." And this is his phrase. And I, with his permission, borrowed it because I get up every single day. And the reason why, a lot of us on here be in high performance, I take care of myself the way that I do. I have the boundaries the way that I do because I have to be ready and I have to be present. But if I'm tired or I'm hungover or I don't feel good about my body because I didn't work out or I'm eating like crap or I got in a fight with whatever it is, I'm probably not going to be somebody's moment and my antennas aren't going to be up. And so I take this incredibly so serious that over time it's really easy to say no to things that are going to get me away from showing up to be my best. So that's all the resume stuff, but I want to really get to know me. Something that I need to do more of is stretch, and I do more of it, but I'm not, I am saying this because I need to hold myself accountable. I'm 44. I'm deathly afraid that when burn boot camps, I go in and like we're sprinting and the guy next to me wants to race, like I'm gonna pull something and I have to win. So I do need to stretch more because I'm afraid of that. Something I'll never do again is jump out of an airplane. I thought I was going to love it being an adrenaline junkie, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. Like the whole 30 days leading up, I'm like, do I take my dog to the sitter and plan my debt for my death, or do I leave her here and it's negligence? Do I like put the passwords to my bank accounts on my, I mean, the whole thing was awful, including jumping out of the plane. So you may love it. I will never do it again. If I could snap my fingers and be anywhere, I grew up in a one stoplight town. It's not a place for me to thrive, but I do miss my family terribly. I have a brother, his family's back there, and my mom and dad. And so I try to plan a couple of trips a year for us to go somewhere. It's really cool to my dad worked all the time and we didn't have a lot of money, and so it's really cool as adults to spend time with your parents and just really get to I feel like I'm getting to know them still in certain aspects when we have like 7 days in a house together. My favorite song is Going for Greatness. Favorite food is pizza. Favorite dessert is cheesecake. Never met one that I don't like. Most people don't know that when I was searching for fulfillment, I realized that serving was a piece that was not in my life, and so I slid into being the fundraising director for the Patriot Family Military Foundation, and so we raise money to build houses in North Carolina for wounded veterans, and then we also place PTSD service dogs who happen to be rescued out of shelters, and we train them and give them to the soldiers as well. And I have single-handedly had over 500 mommy dogs and puppies through my house over the past 10 years. Just love it. It scratches the maternal instinct for me. I don't have children, and it's a way to give back. And I love a good prank call. This is one of my best pieces of work. I finally posted this on social media. I don't know where it comes from. Sometimes these things just pop into my head, but my neighbor during COVID was obsessed with his yard, his brand new neighbor, and I got the bright idea that I was going to plant fake dandelions in his yard. And so I did, and his wife was on board, and this is the moment it all happened. And I love that part right there where he looks to see whose yard infested his. I don't know what's funnier, the prank or listening to her giggle behind the phone. But I really do believe that, and I know some of your stories on this call, that this whole thing could change and end for us tomorrow. And like, how can we, I think part of high performance I think part of high performance is having fun too. I think that it releases serving releases so many of the good chemicals in the brain. Laughter does, community and connection does as well. And I really think that being somebody who is wound tighter than a drum and still am in many respects and focused on the next thing, I really am also on a journey of having a damn good time every single day. And I don't pull a lot of pranks, but if I know that you can handle one and it comes to mind, it's going to happen. All right. So, what are we here for? Well, I want you to have your best year yet. And I know that it's going to happen for you this year. I know it's going to happen without a doubt for every single one of us that are here. And I want you to know that you're not late. I think that most of us that are high achievers, and it'd be in February, and if we've like stuttered in what we're doing or we've questioned what it is that we're doing, we're like all of a sudden now we're all the way up here, and I feel like it's hard to focus. And so I'm not a coach. I don't sell this way. I don't want to inspire this way of making people feel like they're up against a clock. I think that you all do a damn good job of doing that to yourself. I want you to know that you're not late and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I mean, we have plenty of time. So I want to just share a couple things with you now, being the first week of February, that I think could be helpful coming off of the summit, or if you didn't do the summit, just starting the year. So if you didn't do the summit, this is what took place a couple weeks ago. The recordings are still available. It's $99 for a year's worth of access as many times as you want. 100% of the recordings go to Be Strong Foundation, as well as Best Friends Animal Society to help with the LA fires. The reality of it is what I see is that most people get stuck here in February for a number of reasons. January starts strong. There's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of excitement. We think we have our plan. And oftentimes by the, 4 to 5 short weeks later, we are in overwhelm. Life hit us sideways. Maybe we've gotten some surprises. Maybe we don't really know what our life looks like. So things aren't taking off as fast as we thought that they were going to. We may be questioning our plan. We may have lost focus on the vital few. And there's a lot of people that come February, they haven't even put their plan together yet. Like the holidays were so busy, last year was so busy, or they're still celebrating their win. They've just completely forgotten. And now they feel like they're behind the 8 ball. And so I've done 11 vision board events. I do them both for corporations and I do them for the public. I did 11 in January and there's one more in February that I'm going to do. And this is the piece that I find for the majority of high achievers, unless you're conditioned to do this or you have a coach, is that we really probably don't have 100% clear optics as to what's really going on in our life. And I think it's really important that we take inventory of what's going really well in our life and what's not going well in our life. And so this is a simple wheel of life exercise. I don't know if anybody's ever done one of these before and looked at one of these before, but I think it's really important. Whenever I teach a vision board exercise, we've all heard the saying that we overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can do in 3 and 5 and 10. And I think a lot of us have lived this. And so we can't focus on everything. There's just not enough hours in the day. We can't say yes to everything. But if you were to look at this wheel and just pick 3, you could pick more, you can pick less. I think 3 or less is a great place to focus, because if we really want to move the needle forward and get really good at something, relationships, I always say that those are the 2 a.m. friends, right? Who can you call at 2 a.m.? Last vision board event, somebody said I call those shovel friends. I'm like, that's okay, that's fine, no questions. I'll bring the shovel, whatever that means. I think I get it. But whether that's friends or family, it doesn't matter who those people are. Over here, friends and family, that you may draw a line down the center because it may be a different number for friends or family. Love obviously is romantic. Contribution, for me, it's dogs, it's veterans, helping out a lot with disasters. Spiritual religion is the same thing. So I would just encourage you, you can take a picture of this and I'll send this out. I'll actually send my whole deck of what I do for my I'm not just a cutting and paster. We don't come to my vision board event to craft. I mean, that's like the second half, but we're getting real and we're going to move the needle forward. And we really have to take inventory. And I'll tell you, for those that are coaches, nobody does this. This blows people, like nobody has any idea what's really happening. So I always say, pick 3 areas of your life that you can focus on. And it doesn't mean, like, I don't care what they are, but I think you need to get down to the truth, because if we've done this long enough, if you've lived long enough, like me, I'm 44, you start to realize that doors you don't want to open and things that you don't want to take care of, it just becomes like a negative drag behind you. It's like what happens to our phones when we have all these apps running in the background. We start to run slow and it's got our attention. It's that conversation that you need to have. It's the relationship you need to get out of. It's whatever it is. And so I see oftentimes, as an example, finances, a lot of people just don't open their bank account. They don't open, like, this, the credit card statements come and they just keep on tossing them. And it's like, come on, like, let's just get this. I'm not going to force you to do anything, but let's just get this squared away, because it's really taken away from all of your power and every other direction. So the first thing that I would want you to encourage you to do to build momentum in February is to really, focus on the vital few. What are the 3 areas or less? It may just be one. Maybe health is your number one focus outside of everything else, and that's perfectly fine. I think simplicity and less is more. But where are the top 3 areas of your life that you can focus? And then within each of those 3 areas, what are the top priorities within those areas that will move the needle forward? And so I have a desire to get on more stages. So that would be an area, like, okay, so the area of my life would be growing my speaking business. getting on more stages. And so what has to be a priority for me? Well, like the activities that are high paying that are priority would like, do people even know this, right? Like I just shared it with all of you. So maybe you'll, if you see an opportunity for me, you know my story. But am I really, is this part of my, in sales, we call it DMO, daily method of operation. Is this part of my daily method of operation that I'm letting people know? Well, it should be, because if, how's that needle going to be moved forward if people don't know? So 3 areas that I would prioritize every single week, if not every day, would be letting more people know that I want to speak on stages, actually Googling and here's it, that's a like a pro tip. If you want to find more stages, you can set a Google search to come in that will just tell you like what annual events are happening, what annual meetings are happening. So I have that coming in from Google every single day, and I go on and I look, and then I'll, sometimes I'll just bird dog back to like the person in charge at that company if it's 6 months out, and let them know like, hey, I'm here, I'm local here in Charlotte, right? I don't care too much right now. I want the visibility, so I'm not like stuck on a number. So if it's a great audience and I can get media coverage, I'm gonna go for it. So, um, am I looking for speaking opportunities? And of the speaking opportunities that I have, am I capturing, making sure that that looks nice, and am I posting that every single week? Well, the answer to all of this is no, and this is a priority that I have to do moving forward, starting in February. So real life could be that I post once a week a reel or picture of me speaking. I let one person know every single day, and I apply or I reach out to 3 speaking opportunities every single week. This has to be on your calendar. Like this is just the reality of it. So like, a lot of you know some of the same people that I know. High performance is not, we just don't fall into this. And one of the companies that I worked for that I was so grateful for, we managed our people's schedule so tightly at the fastest growing companies that every Thursday, no kidding, every Thursday night, they'd have to have all next week their activities put into the calendar. Then I would get on, I would look at in the CRM, and then every Friday I had a one-on-one call with every one of my people. And if they were spending time in the wrong areas that weren't going to move the needle forward, then it was my opportunity to redirect them. That's how tightly we managed the business. But like we ran like the competition was on our heels. And I think 15 years later, there's still no competition. But that's what it takes. If you don't manage people and you don't want to manage them that way, you can manage yourself and your calendar. And it really takes a calibration and having some type of system where you are, having some type of system where you are just checking back in and calibrating. I teach a time management course, and the most important thing, and the reason why like it's part of my women's 12-week Unleash program too, I want to run with you while you're doing it and while you're doing real life, because most of the time people have no idea how long it takes them to do things. So if we want to like get really efficient with our time and we start time blocking, you're like, oh my gosh, this one's running over into that one. And oh, how am I going to do this? And I really encourage putting white space on your calendar in the beginning, just so that you, again, we need our optics. If you haven't taken inventory, then we have to go through that process for a few weeks just to see like how long does this stuff really take, and make sure that you're checking back in. I talk about win cards a lot. When I go into corporations, I always go, okay, well, what's the goal? Okay, well, let's reverse engineer that. And then if every single person knew what they were supposed to do, and she's supposed to make 10 sales calls because out of 10 every single day, 2 are going to be across the finish line. Well, that's pretty freaking easy, right? But what's your daily win card? What are the things that you need to do? And if we scroll back to what I was just talking about, like for me, one of my 3 areas is growing my speaking. So on my win card every single day, I have to reach out to people. I have to make sure I post once a week. It's not daily, that's weekly. But am I also looking for opportunities? Like that is sitting on my desk. It's on my phone. I have a time block that I sit down and I just hammer out those activities before anybody gets to me. I get up very, very early. I always have, and I love it. But this is really what winning looks like. And again, do you have a process of tracking and reviewing? I think that like if anybody's ever tracked their macros or tracked how much water they drank, how many times are you like, oh my gosh, I'm not even close. And I thought it was so close. Like I thought I was, right? And if I'm off 30 grams every day times 7, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to meet my body compensation goals. So are you tracking your progress? And that can be just very simply every Friday or at the end of every day, you take a look and see, like, how did I do? Review your calendar. What did you get done? You're going to forget. And the reality of it is, like, this is high performance, is if you don't have coaches around you or systems, you need to have a system, and you need to realize that you get back on the horse tomorrow and you refine and you refine and you refine. We don't just go, oh man, this doesn't work for me. Like, that's what the rest of the world does. But this is the separator, is that we just stay on it and we go, okay, I'm human. Okay, yep, I forgot. Okay, I need an alarm. I need a sticky note. I don't know what your system is. You know what works best for you, and you may need to experiment with that a little bit. And ask yourself, did I spend most of my time doing what I'm best at today? If you haven't read Gay Keller's The Big Leap, Zone of Genius, I mean, oh my gosh, the amount of time that you're going to be spending doing all this piddly stuff that should be outsourced, that's away from your goals. It's going to, first of all, you're not going to reach your goals. And second of all, you're going to have a really high probability of burning out. Non-negotiables, setting boundaries to protect your time. And I think we all know this. Balance does exist. You just have to know what's important and what's not. And you also have to have the guts to say no, right? We got to stop people pleasing. We got to stop worrying about what everybody thinks. And I'll tell you that of all my years of writing sales scripts and putting sales reps through the motions of role playing, it's really served me well in this other space, because giving people the words or giving them 4 or 5 options, and I'm watching, I'm listening, I got my antennas up. People don't know how to get out of their commitments in their situations. And like, I've been this way forever, even though I want to change, or I never liked that. Like, how in the world am I going to now start to say no? It is really, really hard for people. So giving them the words is, I found it to be very helpful with my clients. Upgrading your environment. So all of this, if you have attended the summit and you're combing through this information, I designed the summit the way that I did to be on demand, because when I work out, I get an endorphin release, and it's real, and it's always been that way. And being in sales, I equate a lot of things to sales now that I'm not in sales, but we kind of all are in sales, really. You're selling your wife on why, like, you want Italian and she wants Mexican. You're selling your kids on why they need to brush their teeth. And so it's all influence at the end of the day. But I will tell you, there's periods of time, and just like being at the Aspire tour right now, where my courage is going to be higher, my endorphins are going to be a little bit higher. I hit my chicken list as soon as I get out of the gym. If I need to hit my chicken list, like somebody I'm afraid to call, a move I'm afraid to make, I either do it as soon as I get off of live TV, or I do it as soon as I leave the gym. I've had my chicken list on my front seat, shotgun, for 20 plus years, and it works so well. And so the reason I designed the summit the way I did was so that you can pause it and you can take action. Like, you don't, self-help becomes shelf-help, because we lose the momentum, we lose the moment, we lose the courage, and you have to take advantage of that moment. And that's why I think it's great that, man, if there's like 3 things that you saw that you want to do from the summit, like, just go do that. I told some people, somebody came up to me today. I don't know why they think that somebody thought that I was part of Aspire, that I was speaking today, because I have a VIP tag on, and it was some young, very, very just motivated person. And he said, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Listen, just pull 3 things today, just 3. It's going to be 12 hours worth of content and motivation, inspiration, whatever, tips, tricks. Just take 3." Because a lot of people get addicted to the environment and the energy, and then the self-help becomes shelf-help, because you go, well, gosh, like, you're up high off of the energy, but you didn't do a damn thing about it, and you came home and you put your book on the shelf, and then you're like, oh, now what am I going to sign up for? No, like, open your book. Open your book. And so if you have the recordings of the conference, I would encourage you that if you hear something, just pause it. Same thing, if you're reading a book, pause it. If you're feeling the moment, we all know ourselves, and the moment's probably going to go away. So go do it as quickly as you can. Otherwise, that cycle has to start all over. And I think I talked about this in my story yesterday. The cycle of frustration has to start over too. When I was leaving corporate America, guys, like, I had the moment 2 years before I actually did it. And then I went and studied it, and I was like, what the heck happened to me? And the reality of it is like, I was so fired up, and I was right at the end, the edge. And instead of jumping, I took a moment, all that energy came down, the courage came down. I got in my head, I took a vacation, and then I came back and I'm like, man, it's all still here again, right? But the frustration wasn't as high as it was before I took the vacation. So all that had to start again, and just realize that that's the process. And I don't know about you, but I keep bringing up my age, maybe because I know that most people don't want to ask that, and I'm okay with it. But I feel like I'm up against the clock now. Like as soon as I turned 44, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much of an impact. I'm finally ready to do this. I kind of wish I was ready 5 years ago. So you can create an environment. You can go to places, you can listen to things, you can be around people that will give you a better opportunity to leverage your physiology. So upgrade your environment wherever you can. Plan things, manufacture as much as you possibly can. If you need to go to personal development events or read books or whatever it is for you, but audit your environment. I have a creating confidence lead magnet, and like people always say, how do you have so much confidence? Well, a big piece of it is I don't hang around people that make me feel really bad. I don't hang around people like we all have those people that you're like, man, you don't see me, you don't appreciate me, you don't see my gifts, I don't feel good about you, you question everything that I do. If you have anybody like that in your life, you just got to spend either no time or very, very, very small periods of time with them. Don't share anything. So who do you feel the best around? And who do you feel the worst around? Can you spend more time with the people you feel great and less time with the people that you don't feel great around? When I first left corporate, I had gone through a divorce a couple years before, and I was new in Charlotte, and I was having a lot of fun. So like Lake Norman was here, and I gave myself permission just to have like a pretty carefree year. And then I had heard somebody say like you become the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and I was like, oh gosh, this isn't going to be good. Like this is not, if I turn out like this, because we're not really doing much besides having a lot of fun. So I cleaned all that up, but then it left me with really nobody. And so I had books and podcasts all the time. It wasn't a time for isolation, but it was better than being around those people. And I had podcasts and books going all the time, always something good. I think keeping your space tidy, energy is everything. You're not going to get as far as you want to if things are a mess. Remove distractions if you can, cut out the Netflix, add in some supportive elements. Are you looking at your vision board? Do you have a vision board? Do you have your goals down? Do you have a legacy statement? And surround yourself with people, places, and inputs that elevate you. Energy is everything, you guys. Like it tips you, it tips the whole room, and as Devin said, like being an energy catalyst, an energy starter, a fire starter, like I know that. I know that. And I can walk in the room. People think that I'm somebody here, and I'm like, I just walked up with my hand in my jean pocket, and they think I'm a speaker, and it's a real thing. I know you all have probably felt that before. And so it wouldn't have happened today though if I drank alcohol last night and I had a shitty night's sleep, or I wasn't feeling good about myself. And that is high performance, in my opinion. It's really important to have a plan for the bad days because they're going to come. Like you're going to have a day where you don't sleep good or something happens in life. And I think that I'm on the mission of truth. And I think that there's so much you can do to prevent these things from happening, but they're going to happen. And so when they do happen, how can you still keep the momentum going? So maybe instead of having like 5 things that you're supposed to do today, like what's the one most important thing that if you did, you'd feel really good before your pillow hit, your head hit the pillow. I think it's really important for us to have a plan instead of like going, man, and now we're beating ourselves up and now our confidence came down lower and now we feel like we were behind the 8 ball and the whole thing just snowballs in the wrong place. But it doesn't have to. It really doesn't have to. The other thing that I think is really important is if you do get off track, how are you going to get back on the horse? And I interviewed Drew Hanlon on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. He's got a book coming out. I think it's out now. It's out now called Stop Bullshitting Yourself. And Drew's like a all or nothing guy. And so like, I think like that's amazing. But if you're having a bad day, it's probably going to repel people from going to it because you're like, gosh, I'm not as good or I'm not feeling as good. And so I was really like, it was really getting in his head. I'm like, okay, but like, seriously, Drew, not everybody can do what you do. And he just really does everything he puts his mind to. And he said, well, this is what I tell my clients. I tell my clients, never let one mistake lead to 2. And he trains a lot of NBA guys, skills guys. He's an NBA skills coach. Never let one mistake lead to two. And I thought that that was so brilliant because a lot of people go, well, I took one shot, so we're just going to blow it out tonight, right? Right. I had one piece of pizza, so like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and finish the pie. Well, no, like, what if it's just like, what if you stop at that one piece and you get right back on? Like, think of what that could do for your life and your goals. And if life happens and you get a few days out, again, what is a ritual or something that can kind of get you back on? So for me, if I miss a few days of working out, I always start with hydration and protein. Like those two things just it shifts my mind to get kind of back on the horse. And I think we all probably have a routine like this. We may just not know what it is. Most importantly, you have to let it go. You just got to let it go. It's like there's nothing good that's going to move forward if carrying that forward. Lastly, I have for the ladies on the call or any ladies in your life, I have my Unleashed program. It's a 12-week program for women that are looking to unleash and step into their full potential. It's 12 weeks. It's the first phase is alignment, second phase is activation, and third phase is acceleration. So the first month, the first 4 weeks, really focus on getting you in alignment. Second phase of activation is all my high performance systems that I've perfected over the years. It started 20 plus years ago, leading, some of the most well-respected and successful sales teams in the medical device industry. And then the third phase is the more advanced high performance techniques. And so, if you look at my life before now, I was really living in that middle phase, the middle phase and the third phase. So phase 2 and phase 3. And, I have the receipts of everything that I've done, and I can make anything happen that I want to happen. The reality of it is there was still a burden on me, and I still was not living in peace and happiness and joy. And the missing piece that I believe exists for the majority of people and prevents them from really stepping into what I believe is high performance is the alignment. What really matters at the end of the day, like, are you really doing the things that you want to do, and are you staying away from the things that you don't want to do?